3 up, 2 across, tap that play button 3 times, and walk through the archway into Dialogue Alley. Hello and welcome to the podcast. Dialogue Alley is a show about Harry Potter books, book translations, and all other things magical. I am Melanie from the Harry Potter collection, and with me today is Erik from Nocturne Erik.
Hello.
And Carly from All the Pretty Books.
Hello.
And if you're new to the show, just a quick little recap on who we are and what we do. We are Harry Potter book collectors. We collect Harry Potter book translations, rare Harry Potter books, signed Harry Potter books, all sorts of different kinds of fun Harry Potter books, and other fun Harry Potter fun things.
Yeah, yes, that's what we do.
Did I get everything?
Sure.
So, all sorts of Harry Potter fun things. Today on our episode, we are going to be talking about a little bit of news, and we're going to talk about some special books that we have in our collections that are standout books because they have unique art that, for whatever reason, stopped and only happened for 1 or 2 or 3 books in that series before the cover art was dropped and they went with something else. So we're going to talk about those. Then we're going to, as always, talk about our translation of the show, which we will keep as a fun little surprise. So you got to hang on tight with us so we can get to that. And if we...
Or just fast forward now to get there.
Well, you'll have to... It'll be awkward because you'll have to, like, skim around for when it's going to be. So, you might as well just listen to the whole thing.
That's true, because even though we have the ability to put chapter markers in, we don't.
Don't. So listen.
Take that.
You gotta listen to the whole thing. And if we have time, which hopefully we will, we are going to get to a question.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
should we get to the news?
Let's do it.
Awesome. The news. Da, 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 da. So we have some really cool stuff. I feel like this has been kind of a big week in Harry Potter land. We have the new Taiwanese Half-Blood Prince is out, and for those who don't know, these are beautiful editions featuring brand new cover art that have really cool spines as well as really cool covers. So can't wait to get Half-Blood Prince. Erik, we've got to order those.
No, Erik and Melanie.
And Melanie. Melanie's included. We've got to get after it.
I need all of them.
Okay, now that we're on book 6, and I have books 1 and 2, right? Just
or
1 and 2?
1 through 3. It's one of the... I don't know. But I don't want to wait till 7 now. I don't want to wait till 7.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Like, I kind of want to find out when 7 comes out, because if I'm going to get
like next
a bunch
year.
of them...
No, we should order it because this is my birthday month. Also part of the news. August is my birthday month. Yay! So I think we should order them. It's my birthday month.
All right, we can do that.
Okay. See, that was easy.
Yeah, let's do it.
And then Estonian, I didn't actually see new covers coming from Estonia at all, but Estonian has new covers. So that's really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just books 1 and 2 for now, right?
Yeah, so far.
As of now.
Just 1 and 2.
And they have unique cover art, so I'm going to have to buy those, because y'all know me. We all are, actually.
Yeah, that's our thing.
Huh?
That's one of our things.
It is one of our things, hence the topic of today's discussion, too.
Yeah.
And then there's new Funko Pops that are coming our way for the San Diego Comic-Con convention. They're Gringotts Funko Pops, I believe, and we know Grip Hook, it has been announced, and pre-orders are up for Grip Hook. He's a shared exclusive with, I think, Books A Million and maybe Barnes & Noble. As well, of course, he's the summer convention Funko. But they're going to be announcing some others as I guess we get closer. But you can go ahead and go. I think pre-orders are open now for this guy.
Yep.
I have a Funko Pop question. Is this an appropriate time to ask it?
I think so.
Because you could both probably answer this. So I know, we all know, and if you have any sort of mild Funko Pop collection, that there are Funko Pop exclusives, like you can only get them at Walmart, or only at Target, or only at Comic-Con, or only at Hot Topic. Are there any that you can't get online that you have to physically go to, like, do you have to go to Comic-Con to get it?
Not necessarily, because, so, majority of the times, either the New York Comic-Con or the San Diego Comic-Con exclusives will have like a sister store where they'll sell certain pops at different stores. So it makes it kind of awkward because you have to go all around to get them. I remember a few years ago when they came out with Quirrell at New York Comic-Con, and there was also the Augury for the Fantastic Beasts, and there was one other one that is slipping my mind right now. Some sort of Hermione, I think. Maybe. I don't know. But
yeah.
If
Hermione with the sorting hat, maybe. She was an exclusive.
Yeah, I think you're right. So those 3 came out at New York Comic-Con, and you could get them there, or you'd have to go to Hot Topic for one, Target for another, and FYE for a third one.
Right.
So
and would you have to physically go there, or could you order them online?
I think you can get them online, but they
can
do
order
You
them.
sell
could go
out.
to like Target.com and get them?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can. I just do know that they sell out. But also, at the end of the day, it's a lot easier doing that than it is to get them at these Comic-Cons, because you have to enter a lottery and then maybe you'll get it. And if you enter the lottery, you can only get a limited number, or like 2 of each one, something like that. So it's always like a huge issue if you're trying to actually get these at these conventions. So I don't know. I say stick to trying to get them from the store, trying to get them from the websites. I can't think of any instance of where you'd have to actually go to the store and that be the only place you can get them.
I know, like Target, some of the Target exclusives, it's easier to go to the store because some of the Target exclusives are sold out online. At least that's been my experience. In fact, that's how I got my Basilisk. It was a Target exclusive. Peter actually got it for me because we had 6 Basilisks that were delivered to the whole city, so they weren't even allowing online orders at all.
Oh, wow.
Got it.
And then for our EU and actually other people who aren't in the US, the Funko Pop collectors who aren't in the US, they're actually really hard to come by. There's certain stores in the UK where you can get these, but they've got to wait sometimes months after release date to be able to get, and there's still no promises.
Well, and that was my question or realization that I was just coming to here, that if you don't live here, or let's say you do live here, but you live in a pretty rural area, which is thanks to the internet and mail, you can get anything you want, but if you have to physically drive to Target, your Target might be 2 hours away.
Yeah.
Which would be a kind of a zonk, but still doable. So.
Yeah.
I listen to Yvonne quite a bit, and she's really upset about when the Funko Pops come out because she has to, I think I forget actually what the store is called that she orders her Funkos from, but it's frustrating, and they're expensive. Where you pay $8.99 a pop, depending, unless it's exclusive, and they'll pay £10.99.
Yeah, they can be expensive.
£10.99 versus our $8.99. That's quite a bit of dollars difference.
Especially when you're buying, it's not like you're buying 3. If you're collecting them, you're buying how many, Melanie?
I don't even want to tell you. I think
at least 10.
I think the newest one that's coming out. So there's Harry Potter coming out, flying, catching the keys. That one's coming out, and then there's the grip hook one, right? So the
right.
Harry, that's the flying keys Harry, I'm pretty sure is number 130 something, 131.
Well, and don't they tell you on the box they have a number? Right?
Yeah,
Yes.
So that one's 131. And now that doesn't even count. Some of them are duplicates. So some of them will be standard and some of them will be flocked. That'll have the same number, but you still have to get another one. So on top of the 131, there are probably an additional 10 or 15 that I would say, because then there's the rides, then there's the the trio packs, then all sorts of stuff like that are numbers that don't get counted into that 131, but they exist.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, but I'm almost there.
I'm glad that Melanie collects them so that we can experience this through you.
Right.
Because,
good job.
boy, jumping
Thanks,
in
guys.
right now, owning 0 of them, like it's
The
almost
barrier
too
to
much.
entry is way too high at this point.
That's right.
Impossible to, I would say at this point, to go back because so many of them have increased in value significantly. I know a few years ago, a friend of mine really wanted to get all of them, and he started collecting, and one of them that he was going after was the Luna with the Spectra specs. That one sells for over $100 easily on eBay, and that one was 2 years ago. That was 2 years ago when I spent the money and I bought it for him, and it killed me because I got mine for regular price.
Right.
But
she was just an exclusive that we got. I think it was a Barnes & Noble exclusive we got her from.
it was a Comic-Con. It was a Comic-Con exclusive
It was a
one.
con one. Because I got her doing, the same release thing. And same for the Alchemy, too, for that matter.
Yeah,
That
I think
one
they
can
both
sell
came
really
out.
high. And you have to be really careful, too, because just like what we've seen with fake stuff, there's fake Funko Pops that come out of China, and Luna with her Spectre specs is definitely one that's faked.
Yeah, it's
You
terrible.
can typically tell because the box is slightly different. I don't know what the differences are, but I know that there's a slight difference. And it'll say like unbranded, and it's coming out of China. And that's typically, both of those things are typically signs that it's knockoff.
Boo.
Yeah, it's horrible.
We don't like that.
People stink.
No, and the price is generally too good to be true, like $17.99 with free shipping.
Yeah,
And
I
there's
think
usually no stickers saying that it's an exclusive. That's usually missing.
We mentioned that in our show about getting hard books to find, and like if it's cheap, and it's probably too good to be true.
Right.
If it's like on a regular site. Anyway, well, thanks for listening to this edition of Funko Pop Frenzy.
Sorry, everybody.
Oh, it was my question. I'm sorry, everybody.
I know
I
it's
asked
easy
the
to
question.
it's easy to like I don't know get into
It's
it.
the
With
that
these
was the
Funko
question
Pops.
of the show.
No, it wasn't.
Oh, okay.
Nope.
Okay. I like how you sounded like a little upset kid at the moment. Like, no, it wasn't.
No, it's not.
It
We're not.
wasn't.
We're not having Funko Pops be the question of the show.
Okay.
I refuse. Is there any other news?
No, I think we're done. Now your true colors are coming out. It's great.
It's the Ravenclaw wanting to stick to the notes.
Right.
Well, yes, maybe. Yes, no.
No,
All right,
I
should we
think
move
that's
on?
actually all
We
the
moving
news.
on?
That's it.
I think that is all
Let's
the
do
news
it.
for real.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Eric.
All right, so for the main segment this show, we are going to talk about something that we all enjoy, which is unique cover art for book translations. So generally, we've mentioned, I don't know, countless times, can't be countless because we're only on episode 21, but a lot of different translations borrow cover art from existing books or books that had come out previous. So obviously books like the Grand Prix art for book 1, which is the US cover art, the Thomas Taylor art for the UK original book cover. Those two are probably used the most out of any of the translations that just borrow existing art. But there are weird ones like Italian will borrow one from the Dutch cover.
Or the
Albanian
US. They've
or the
taken
US,
several of
yeah.
our covers, actually.
Yeah,
Or like the Finnish took the latest Thai.
Right, yeah. Yep, there's that one too. And then there's one more that now I can't think of. Oh, Albanian used the German.
Yep. Which
So,
Albanians all over the place. They've also used Italian.
yeah, we've talked about this before. Albanian, for the amount of borrowed ones that they've used, they have not
There's no
had their own
there's no
original.
unique one. They've got 4
Which is
different
interesting.
covers. They have Grand Prix, so US, they have Italian, and they have German, and now they have Johnny Duddle.
Well, those Albanians. I don't know what they're going to be up to next. Who knows? So what we want to talk about today is the version of a translation that has the unique art. And so sometimes this was only in book 1. So let's say book 1 was unique, and then the rest of the series was published with Grand Prix art, and then they just reissued book 1 with Grand Prix art. Or let's say they got to like book 3, and they were like, yeah, for whatever reason, we're just going to switch over to the UK art and start back over with Thomas Taylor and then just go back 1 through 7 and just borrow theirs. So I don't know. It could be for a plethora of reasons. It could be the illustrator that was working on it didn't want to do it anymore. It got too expensive to commission someone. Maybe it just got easier to use existing artwork.
I'm thinking it could be like a sales issue. Like maybe the cover art like just wasn't selling very well. So they went to the US cover art because they knew that it would be successful because it was more recognizable.
Exactly. I can see that being the case with at least one of these.
For sure.
Oh, yeah. And that's a really good point because I bet you're right.
And I'm sure y'all are thinking about which one it is. Like, I'm sure already.
I definitely am. I'm looking right at it. 'Cause it's,
Right.
So, I guess we're just going to go through a little list here and we'll talk about it and maybe our thoughts about these books. There aren't too many. Now, the ones that we're going to talk about right now are ones that started with a unique cover but then shifted to a borrowed cover. There are a few that are the opposite of that. They started with borrowed and then have since then have come out with unique. So like the new Bulgarian books or the new Slovakian books. Yeah. Or even the new Lithuanian set that came out. So.
Oh, those are beautiful.
Every time we talk about the new Lithuanian, Carly
Carly slips off her chair.
Yep.
Ah.
20th anniversary Lithuanian.
She has it just off to the side and
They're
just peeks
so
at it
well
with the
done.
misty eyes. Like, oh, there it is.
It's actually like when I show people my books, I actually show them all 7 of those.
I know. You've told us that before.
And the 7 new Slovak. Like, I've got to say it again. There's that.
There is that.
I get
it. Let's go through these. I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 languages on here that we have.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 with like an outlier because I would say this last one. I don't know if you guys are looking at the notes, but this one is like a bit of an outlier. So that one we'll save for last.
5.5.
Okay.
No, 5 and a bonus.
Yeah. Why not 5 3/4?
You can do that.
Oh.
Awesome. So I guess I'll introduce the first one here, or first 2
Perfect.
actually. So we've mentioned this before because in one of the news segments in an earlier episode, I actually got this book pretty recently. So it's Catalan, which is in the country of Spain, and the first one that they came out with is just a book with a clip art picture of a wizard on it, which is very,
interesting. Yeah. It honestly looks like they went on what the equivalent was of Google Images like 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's definitely a wizard. He's got a really big like mace that he's holding in his hand.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely not a wand.
Well, I mean, if it is, it's
maybe
if
it was.
Dumbledore does have the Elder Wand, so like if this was like the wand to have, like it, I can see them being like, "Yep, this is it." So we don't want to get too deep into this one because we have discussed it. So this book came out, and someone said this is probably the exact conversation that happened. Boy, you guys, we can do better.
Let's try again.
I feel like this is a really good example of a cover of a series because the Catalan translated early, right?
Yeah, they were 99.
So I feel like this is a really good example of they're not sure if this is even going to continue past book 1. So if so, it's one and done. We're fine. It's just some weird generic wizard on the cover. And then they realize, we're going to this is going to be an actual series. It has viability because that's just like even going back to the US covers. That's why the 1 was left off for a while, is they wanted to make sure that indeed it would be a series, even though that it had been promised to be. Book 2 wasn't out.
That's a good point. And
so I feel like this is a good example of, we don't know, and it can be crappy at first because we don't know.
Yeah, and it looks like the money that they put into this cover design was just very low. Like they said, can we find a free image to use? Can we just put some stars on a purple background and we'll call it good? And that's it.
I almost expect to see like Getty Images somewhere in the background because they just copied it off the internet.
So then So after that conversation, which the real conversation that I just told you, they said, "Hey guys, we can do better." And then someone said, "Yeah, I think we could." So they came out with another one. Which is it better? Well, maybe.
I
love them too.
love these covers.
I love them too.
Love,
they're very
love.
whimsical, but
The
they're
first
not
one,
pretty.
to Carly's point,
so
they're
childish.
they didn't know if it was going to take off or not, so they're like, we can't leave this just wizard on the cover. We got to make it seem a little more appealing. So then they went to this one, which I like, but it still does not jump off the shelves because it is the one with kind of Where's Waldo Harry standing on the train by himself, and it looks like a Sunday morning newspaper cartoon almost, and he's just real happy.
And what I find so interesting is that, like, the spines of the Harry Potter catalog books, not the Thomas Taylor, not the Bloomsbury art, but a lot of the spines for the Harry Potter catalog books are white. So they're not going to be interesting on a shelf
I almost
anyway.
wonder, I haven't seen anything else from this publisher because I don't live in Spain, but I wonder if this is just kind of like a stock spine that they put on books.
Possible. Although
I agree with that because when I went to Barcelona a couple of years ago and was looking at books and was looking for Harry Potter books specifically, I was thrown off because I saw this spine frequently and was like, shoot, those aren't Harry Potter books. I would compare it to like Penguin. Like, how Penguin books has that same orange spine over and over and over again. I would compare it to that and say maybe it's the same sort of scenario, and that's why they use a similar spine, so you can recognize the publisher.
Yeah, I can honestly say that when I lived in Spain, I didn't pay that much attention to the bookshops. I went in them, obviously, but I was only collecting at the time rare and signed Harry Potter books, which you're not going to find in Casa del Libro.
Not. So after, I don't know, what do we call this one? Old Wizard? After Old Wizard cover... Yes. And after cartoon, Dilbert. Is Dilbert a cartoon?
He is now.
Dilbert a cartoon in the paper?
I believe Dilbert is a cartoon from like the same era as maybe Kathy.
I don't know.
Is Kathy a cartoon?
Harry kind of looks like John from Garfield. Guys. In this, anyway,
a little bit.
So then we have that one, and then after like that one, I think they came out with what, the first 2 or 3.
The first 3 books came out with that cover art,
comic-y style. And then right after that, they jumped into the Thomas Taylor art back with book 1, and then they did the UK all the way through book 7.
It's almost like they're like, oh, this is serious. We should actually do better.
That's kind of going to be a common theme with a lot of these is that, I mean, there are a few, there are languages that we aren't going to talk about today that went with unique art 1 through 7 as they came out. And I feel like the ones that did were almost eye-catching enough in itself. Like I'm thinking Swedish, right?
They planned enough better, or German, French. They planned better.
Yeah, so they
Or they were just like, we're too far in, we're too invested, we're at book 3, let's just finish out the series, we'll continue on with these covers. We can always do another edition later on if we need to. I feel like this could have all, like sometimes I feel like, and I don't know, but I feel like some of these covers shifted to more recognizable, like the first edition Bloomsbury covers, like Thomas Taylor, Cliff Wright, Giles, those guys, because I could almost see like the public, like not Warner Brother, maybe Warner Brother, but her agency being like, guys, what are you doing?
That's true. Yeah.
We want, if you're going to do unique cover art, it actually has to be good. Not that this is bad, but I could see them being critical. Or it's not very serious, but like you can't look at it and say, oh, that's Harry Potter.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
So I could see them either going for, if you're going to do unique cover art, you have to have a more recognizable image to, make him a part of the franchise, or you have to use what's been done by like Grand Prix or like UK.
Sure. Makes sense.
So I could see that being a thing. I don't know.
I will say, just with like a quick like little Google search, I will say that the artist that did these, like, I don't know, these newspaper art that we're talking about, he does have, like, a very similar style across, like, all of his art, if that makes sense. So, I think that it's possible that because of his, like, cookie cutter, what am I trying to say? Like, the fact that he fits into this one niche of style, it's very possible that, like, oh, they might have thought, like, hey, this doesn't actually fit with Harry Potter and what we're going for, and that's maybe why they dropped him and said, you know what, we're actually gonna, like, switch over to the Bloomsbury art. Like, that's
I can
that's very
see that
possible.
because about the same time as when they did like 1 through 4 in the deluxe books also.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, they just kind of went all in.
All in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, who wants to talk about...
And there's so many Catalan books.
Oh, I know. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But if you collect unique art and you want more than just the translation in your collection, there are 2 that you can get that came before the borrowed art.
Okay, so we have talked about this book several times. It is one of my absolute favorite books that I have on my shelves. So the next one that came out with unique art for just book 1 is the Czech edition. And what's really cool about this, and it, again, this is something that we've talked about before, is that there are 3 versions of this cover that came out before they switched over to Mary Grand Pré.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one that came out it's Harry Potter with the pre-movie font. It's Harry with a top hat with a little smoochy smooch on top.
I call them kissy lips. But I like them. I like
kissy
smooch
lips
too.
Smoochy smooch is good. And J.K. Rowling's name is right underneath the title of the book. So that's like one differentiating thing.
Right.
The next edition that comes out, or the second state that comes out, has Harry Potter in the movie font. It's the same top hat, but now J.K. Rowling's name is at the bottom of the book. So you have more of the, like, main focus of the artwork is, like, more centrally located on the book. There was kind of, like, I guess, a re-edit of that. And then the third state has it's like it was completely redone, honestly, because the more you look at it, the more you kind of see all of these different changes on the cover. So Harry is completely redone. He has a bit of a wider face. His shirt is gray instead of black. His pants have different shadowing. His shoes are a bit more detailed. And the main notable factor that differentiates them is that in the first and second state, it's the top hat. And in the third state, it goes to a wizard hat. And also the wizard hat now makes Harry and the hat bigger, and it blocks Dumbledore a bit in the background. So if you look at the 2 next to each other, you definitely see a lot of differences. But all in all, the first 3 states of this it's such cool, unique art. And I feel like it's such a shame almost that they didn't continue on with these, because I love them.
I believe in the front of one of the 2, like either the first or second state, maybe in the wizard hat, the second one, second edition thing. There's I don't have my books. There is a advert in the front, I believe, maybe in the rear, for Chamber of Secrets. And it seems like that one may have had unique art at one point, but they never produced that book, from what I've understood.
My ad I have, so I'm looking right now at the top hat with the movie font, so it's the second version of this, and it has an ad for Chamber of Secrets with the Grand Pré art.
Okay.
Yeah. Third state has Grand Pré. First state has, Grand Pré. Okay. It's cool, though, because it's Grand Pré with pre-movie.
Oh, mine is
font.
movie font.
They already knew they were... I wonder why they already went. Yeah, I wonder why they already switched to Grand Prix in the first state.
I don't know.
I don't know. It's such a
It's
so disappointing.
They pushed this unusual art 3 different times.
They did, and
right.
What I do appreciate though is that like they continued on with the same shape and size of the books. So like if you have these, they fit right on your shelf too, right? So
right, and the size of them is just.
But if you're
perfect.
like a,
but we'll talk about them.
We'll talk about probably later in the translation of the show. But if you were like a Czech kid and like you had this one and then all the Grand Prix ones, you'd probably go back and buy the Grand Prix book 1.
Just to have it match the set. I know I would have had to.
Also, right? This was one of the earlier books that I realized that this was a separate cover, because my first Czech one, someone got it for me in Prague, and it was the Grand Prix book. And I'm like, yep, check that off the list. And this was, and someone...
And did you know that Duddle's also available in Czech?
I did not.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there's also softcover Czech books that have like a cool zigzag spine.
Super cool.
Yeah.
But I mean,
or diamond spine.
Highly recommend any of the first 3 states of this book. Like, they're awesome. It doesn't matter which of the 3 you get. Like, each of them are cool.
Right. And I believe, too, if you're looking at the first or second state, I believe the second one, they zoomed in a little bit closer on the art. So I think you have a closer image. I think the first one is, like, a little bit smaller. Because I think it's one. There's a I think there's a little bit of a difference there too. Like I think one of them you see more of the image.
So the first 2 states I would say are the same. It's just that the image is like more centered on the second state, and then the third state, it's definitely like Harry's significantly bigger. Like you can definitely tell that the artwork is quite larger.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if you want to take a better look at these, we'll for sure be posting all 3 on our Instagram, so you can see for yourself.
Yes, you can.
And they're really, really fun covers. They're really fun books. And I believe there's a fun map that's only in the first 3 of these books.
Yeah, because the map was done by the same art. It was done by the cover artist. It wasn't done by Mary Grand Prix.
Really cool. Really cool books.
Speaking of cool books, Carly, why don't you talk about the next one?
This was probably my first super fun original cover that I ever bought. So, and it's the Hungarian first print Hungarian, which I and all of us in the collector community pretty much lovingly call it like Harry Potter and or the Indiana Jones Harry Potter, or Harry Potter and the Temple of Doom. Because he looks like Indiana Jones. Like there's a lot of green. I love green. Green's my favorite color. So I was instantly drawn to the cover anyway. Then there's orange pre-movie lettering. And it's just a really fun book. Like the cover itself is just really super fun. It doesn't look like anything. It looks like Harry's on a jungle expedition.
It does. It's very jungly looking.
It's amazing.
I was also at the planning meeting for this cover, just like I was at the Catalan one. And they're like,
You've been busy.
Like, I just saw this really good movie, you guys, called Raiders of the Lost Ark. And the font for the title was just, man, it was so cool. What if we pretty much copied it, but just inverted the color fading? And
or that. I figure the meeting went something like, there's going to be trees, Ingrid. There's going to be trees. Make it green.
Green trees.
Lots of orange. Yep. That just screams magic.
Put a wand in his hand. Put a wand. He's got an owl.
Put a wand. Get the
owl on there. But
and an owl on his shoulder. You got to have that.
They're wearing cloaks.
That's how this went.
But yeah, this was one of the earlier ones that I remember getting after I already had the Grand Prix Hungarian, thinking like, wow, I should get this. And I'm glad I did, because this book is hard to find now.
It's wicked hard to find now. I'm probably asked about helping people find this book about 2-3 times a week now via email and Instagram. So I'm asked quite a bit about helping people locate this book. And the thing about it is I even have people in Hungary that, have reached out and offered to look for me, and they're struggling to find these. And when they're found, they're pricier than they were when I was buying mine. Yeah.
So I do know. Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I do know, like, on Reddit, which tends to be like one of my like sources
You've had
when I'm
great
looking
luck
for
on Reddit.
I've had some ridiculously amazing luck on Reddit. But what I do know, like for this book on Reddit, even people from Hungary like don't even know that this book exists.
Right.
Like they've never even seen this cover art. So if they haven't seen it before and we're trying to look for it, then like it's going to be even harder. And what's hard about that, and this is like a bit of a sidebar, but when you're trying to find these books from the country and those people don't even know that this book exists, you're more likely to get the responses of like, hey, that book doesn't exist, but here you could get the exact same book. And it's like,
right.
No, that's not the exact same book. I don't want the Mary Grand Pré cover art. That's why I'm looking for this cool Indiana Jones cover art.
Yeah.
Like they don't understand that like we're looking for the specific cover art.
Right. And we all have so many people write in for so many, and they're like, well, it's the same book. I even had somebody, I was looking for Macedonian book 1 once upon a time. Mm-hmm. And somebody sent me the link for the Half-Blood Prince, and they're like, it's the same series. I'm like, well, no, but it's a different book. This defeated the purpose.
So I'm looking at two things. So the copyright page says 1999, I believe, for this edition, which is very early on.
Right.
So, but it's still late enough where like 99, this book would have already kind of taken off a little bit. So I can see why maybe they changed gears. At the end, it does have an ad for Chamber of Secrets.
Mm-hmm. I feel like not many of these were on the shelf. I feel like these were probably pulled for, maybe 6 months, a year after it was, sold to the public. And I don't think very many were made, if I just had to guess, because you just see so few.
Right. Well, and so they went with the Grand Pré art after this, and like I honestly, the Hungarian Grand Pré books are really nice.
Beautiful. They're probably some of the better Grand Pré books, and their book 6 is phenomenal. So
when you're comparing just like the quality of the title, like it's all the shiny lettering and the book feels great. It's not like they just, slapped some cut and paste stuff on there. Like they really did a nice job. I can see why they kind of just went with that direction early and just said, let's do all 7 with this. And,
right.
And just do our best with the Grand Pré art, because that does look like that on the shelf versus this on the shelf. I would pick the Grand Pré art if I hadn't read them. But as a collector, I would pick this one because it's outstanding.
Mm-hmm. It really is outstanding. It's just fun.
It's not the same, right?
No.
Right.
This looks like a jungle adventure book.
It does. It's just a fun book to have on your shelves.
So good.
Though, I would say that the Indiana Jones cover, like, I think if it's red, I think it gets a pretty decent spine lean, and I don't see that in the Mary Grand Pré Hungarian book. So I think with the Mary Grand Pré books, they have really nice jackets. This one doesn't have a jacket. And they have nice pictorial boards on the Mary Grand Pré. I feel like the quality is much better on the Grand Pré than this one.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Is it the same publisher?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
they
think
just
so.
have they have the logo on the side of this one and not on the other one.
I don't remember a publisher switch. I don't think that's accurate. So I think they're the same.
I just only have one in front of me, and I don't have my telescope next to me, so I can't check it out.
Yeah, I understand. My books are in the other room, and I've got my little desk around me, so if I move, it's just going to get weird.
It would get weird. The Icelandic book, which the first Icelandic I got was the Mary Grand Pré art from someone that went to Reykjavik and picked it up for me, which
Me
was
too.
amazing of them to do. And then I found that they had this other one, and there's a first state of this where they have J.K. Rowling's name listed as Joanna, which the art is exactly the same. The only difference is that name. So I have both. I wanted both, but if you're just into the unique art, you really only need one.
Well, and then the color where that has the J.K. Rowling or the Joanna,
it's a little bit
those are slightly
darker.
different.
Yeah.
But the picture's the same, and the picture is Harry looking very like
Morose.
not excited to
Very
go
sad.
Hogwarts.
Like the first time I saw it was actually over at Peter's, and I asked Peter, I was like, "Why is his head bleeding?"
Aw.
It took
don't
me a
know.
while to figure out that was his scar.
Well, the train in this cover like gets the ribbon for most pollution expelled because it is just like billowing clouds of black into the sky, which is probably not a good. I mean, Iceland's a pretty green country, so
Yeah, probably not good for the
probably not
environment.
good there. What I do really like though is the Dumbledore on the back of this cover.
Yes.
Is pretty cool.
Oh, he's very charming.
Yeah, and I like that a lot, and I like this cover in general too. But it isn't very like, this book's going to be fun, you should read it. It's kind of like, oh gosh, do I have to read that?
I
like,
know if I were to see that
that's
in
what
the
Harry's
store.
like. That's what Harry's saying to me. He's like,
Yeah.
well, I guess if you want to read it, you can. But
Harry's just grumpy because it looks like they sorted him into Hufflepuff instead of the house he belongs in because his tie is yellow and black.
There's that too.
maybe he's grumpy because that's what he's wearing on a train ride. And if I had to wear a tie on a train ride, I would not be happy either.
Yeah.
But his hair is pretty well combed, though.
There is that. That's one
true.
of the first times. Like, usually his hair's super unruly in these illustrations. But
Oh, yeah.
I know if I were to see this on like a bookshelf or a table at a bookstore, I probably wouldn't pick it up unless I knew what it was because it looks sad.
It does look sad. It looks like it's going to be a sad story.
And
which
just the overall color
not.
palette used, like they're very morose, hard colors, lots of grays and blacks, weird reds. It just isn't a book that just says this is a fun story.
I will say, just to wrap up this book, though, is that we probably need like a separate episode to just talk about our stories and getting these books, because I know I have a very cool story is how I got mine.
Yes,
and I think Erik has a really fun story for this
I
too.
also do, yeah.
I think one of our next episodes, like coming up in the near future, is going to have to be, and we said this in the past, that we would call it like book getting stories.
Yeah.
Like
Right, a
fun
story-
book getting
yeah.
stories.
Gotta catch them all.
So I feel like we'll definitely make an episode and I'll chat with everyone about how I got my fun Icelandic book.
Yay.
Yeah.
So the European Portuguese is really fun. And this one is actually a bit unusual in that the first two books have unusual cover art. And then they went to Grand Prix and finished out the series with Grand Prix art. But the European Portuguese books, like, I would have to say I probably saw book 1 and book 2 featuring the unique cover art about the same time I saw the Hungarian, and I had to have them. They're just so much fun. So book 1 is like this kind of a purpley pink background with like, what is it? Letters falling?
Yeah, it's letters and little stars.
Yeah. And it's just a really fun cover. Like, you know, looking at it, you know something cool is inside story-wise. Like, at least I would. If I were to see that in a bookstore, I'd be like, oh, cool, I want the letter book. Because that's how my little mind would have
Harry's
worked.
on a broomstick flying, right? Like,
Right.
The Icelandic one, it looks like any old kid going on some train ride to his doom. Like, maybe
Well,
he's getting like a...
it looked like he bumped his bean or his head. Like, it just, you know, it doesn't look like he's a happy
Yeah,
kiddo.
this one's like, oh, there's owls and broomsticks that fly,
this one is fun and magical. And then you go to even the Chamber of Secrets one, which is unique. That one's also, the color palette's fun. Like, just well thought out art. I'm actually very disappointed they didn't go past 2 with these illustrations.
I agree.
And so I highly recommend, and just like all of the unique cover arts that came first, these 2 are also getting harder to find. So if you find them for sale, you may want to consider buying them.
That's right.
So, yeah. I would say out of all of the original cover art, though, that we've just discussed, I would say the Portuguese, European Portuguese, because there is a Brazilian Portuguese. Don't confuse the 2. But I would say the European Portuguese, the first 2 are probably some of the easier to find of the unique covers. Because you can still find them on US eBay for not a whole lot of money.
Yeah,
I would agree with that as well. I feel like all of the other ones, for the most part, can be pretty tricky to come by.
And if they're not tricky to come by, they're already expensive.
Right. And whereas these, you can find them. I saw one, actually, I think Thrift Books it was a stock image, but I believe the ISBN is different than the Grand Prix. I could be wrong, but I don't have my books in front of me. And if that's the case, if it's the different ISBN, then that's probably the book that they had in stock. So they're around, is the point.
They are. All right, Melanie, take us home with the last one.
So this last book is very interesting, and I call it like a little outlier because it doesn't necessarily follow the other rules of what we've been talking about with the borrowed art. So this is book 3, Vietnamese. And book 1 and book 2 came out with Mary Grand Pré art. And for whatever reason, just book 3 has this unique cover art. It's a bluish background. It's Harry and Hermione on a hippogriff. And there's like a little fire in the back, but it is very clearly not the Prisoner of Azkaban that we all know.
So my question is this, because Vietnamese also came out with serials before they actually did book form. Mm-hmm. And the serials, there's like 61 of them for those who don't know, and they all feature different unique covers. My question, and it seems like I've gone through and looked at this, but I could be wrong. It seems like book 3 art came from like, they pulled some of that imagery off one of the images from this, I think, 8 or 9 Azkaban serials. It seems like I remember, it may not be the exact image, but it seems like
same kind of art,
same concept, maybe even same illustrator, but I'm not in front of my book, so I can't tell. But that would be interesting if they did do that, because then my thought would be, if that is the case, what happens to 1 and 2 and then, the rest?
It's interesting. So those little like comic booky books that you're like talking about, like book 1 has very unique art that wasn't used for book 1 of the Vietnamese set. Book 2 has very, very clearly copied from Mary Grand Pré art to this Vietnamese style, except it looks like a little Vietnamese Harry, like still holding on to the phoenix tail, like that same art. So that's on all of the issues for book 2. And book 3, you're right, it follows a similar it does look similar to this book that I'm talking about, but I do think it is a different illustrator. It's the same, it's Harry on Buckbeak, but the Buckbeak is very different from these little comic books versus this one book.
And isn't the color palette more similar to the comic book thing, the serials, than the
kind of
a purplish, yellow, white?
So all of the volumes for book 3, it's numbers 16 through 24 are for the serials. Each one is a different color. So one is red, one is green, one's purple, blue, orange, pink, teal, yellow, purple again. So they are a little bit different. I would have to pull specifically volume 24, because that looks like it would be the closest one. But I do think that they're different enough that like maybe it was based off of that, but like it still in the back of my head, I'm like, where did this cover art come from?
My question then would be, what if, they got through the end of 3 and they're like, these are getting really long, we'll continue the serials, but what about putting them into book form also? And then they did book 3, and then they're like, went back and then did 1 and 2 in US art, and then left 3 where it was, and then 4, 5, 6, 7. I think it would depend on when they stopped doing the serials. The serials we know stopped at the end of book 5.
Right.
But for as much, I don't know if they were sold concurrently in shops, because they were getting really long, as the books went on. So I'm curious.
Is possible, because books 4 and 5 of the serials are Mary Grand Pré art.
They're Grand Pré art. And yeah, they're all. So I'm curious if book 3 was like when they made them into actual book form, and they did 3 and the similar thing to be like, hey, this is also this book, like to associate the pair in stores. And then they went back and did 1 and 2 and Grand Pré to associate the rest of the series with, Grand Pré stuff.
Well, it's going to be one of those mysteries, unless
Somebody lets us know.
One of our beautiful listeners on here knows a little bit more of these books and can drop us an email or send us a DM to give us a little bit more info on this little standalone book.
Because it's a cool, it's a really cool cover.
It is. It's awesome. I love this cover. It's just all alone.
Yep.
Can you tell by my minutes of silence that I don't have these?
I'm pretty sure I got Carly her comic books.
You did.
Those because I found someone via Reddit that supplied me and a couple of people with ours. But book 3, I'm pretty sure I got just on eBay. Just way back because I was like, oh, this book has unique cover art. Like, I don't have the whole set of Vietnamese books with the Mary Grand Prix art, but I do have book 1 and I have book 3 because it's unique.
Right. Well, book 3 was actually the first Vietnamese book that I got, and I bought it because I was like, that looks cool. And then I at the time, because I was so new to translation collecting at the time, I thought Vietnamese all had unique covers, and I was so disappointed to find out that, and I like the Grand Prix. That sounds bad, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I agree.
No, I think all of us are in agreement. Always like unique art is our favorite thing.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't dislike Grand Prix. I love the Grand Prix covers so much. I have a giant poster of the first book on my wall. I'm looking at it. I love it. But
it's iconic, but it's nice to see how other cultures interpret Harry Potter.
Yes.
I agree.
Yes. That was really fun. I'm glad you mentioned the book 3.
I know, because it's just like, it's just lonesome all on its own, and it deserves to be talked about.
And now when we get done recording the podcast, I'm going to go in and check all the copyrights for my serials and the book 3 to see if they came about at about the same time.
Well, let me know. Let me know what you find.
I will.
I'm just glad we talked about it so I had time to go have like a bowl of Cap'n Crunch. Now I'm back.
While you just enjoy the shredded roof of your mouth, why don't we talk about the translation of the show?
Sounds like a good idea.
Ha ha ha.
Translation ahoy.
Oh boy. I think you gave me the translation of the show today, Eric, because all of these things are very, very difficult to pronounce.
Yep, that's why I did it. Hey, I did my best on a couple of them previously, so now you get to do your best on this one.
Well, I'm just going to say the things that I know how to say. So, the translation of the show today is Sinhala. This is a book that we have talked about quite a bit in the past because we love the script of this book. It is just beautiful to look at. When you open this book up, it is super swirly and just beautiful. And
dare I say, stunning?
Yes.
It is quite stunning, I would
breathtaking.
say.
It is something that I look at and I'm like, people read this? That's so cool.
Yeah. I can't fathom it because it looks like just beautiful little swirly art to me. It doesn't necessarily look like letters, but it makes sense to somebody. And the people that it makes sense to are the people that are in Sri Lanka, which is where this is where Sinhala is spoken. It is let's see.
Well, we should say Sri Lanka, if you don't know where Sri Lanka is, if you know where India is, which you should, but if you don't know where India is, it's in Asia. And Sri Lanka is off the southeastern coast of India. It is a small island.
Oh, thanks. I'm glad you added that.
And fun fact, my sister had a layover in Sri Lanka one time.
Oh,
cool. I don't know why, but she did.
Oh my. Okay, so Sinhala is the official language of Sri Lanka, as well as Tamil. It has 17 million native speakers, and there are 3 million people that have it as their L2, which is pretty cool.
Which I would guess the L2 speakers are like Tamil L1 speakers.
Right.
Probably.
Because I think English is not widely spoken, but like also used informally in Sri Lanka. But
I think so. English you can typically find even on a rudimentary level pretty much around
Somewhere.
the world. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. So if we go into our cool little rating scale for for Sinhala, everyone can open up their book and take a nice whiff. I'd give it an acceptable. I feel like it's neither here nor there for how it smells.
I mean, honestly, it doesn't. None of my Sinhala books smell super great. They don't smell bad. They have a smell.
Yeah, I would say like poor to acceptable. And once I go to like the middle of the book, I feel like it smells a little bit funky.
It gets really heavy. Like whatever that is, it's whatever, maybe how they made the paper, the ink, the two together. I'm not sure. Maybe the glue.
Yeah, I'm switching mine to like a dreadful to poor. I actually don't really like how it smells.
They're not, it doesn't smell very good.
Call me that guy, but whatever that dreadful smell is, I'm digging it, and I'm giving it outstanding because I cannot get enough of this one.
Oh my gosh, your opinion of outstanding and my opinion of outstanding
very
greatly
different
way.
there.
I don't know why I like the smell. I mean, it's like that school bus exhaust smell. Like
oh,
those kids
that's
that like
I
it.
love the
like,
smell of school bus exhaust. This isn't
like
it
people
though.
that like the smell of gasoline.
Oh, I got in trouble actually when I was 5 because I snuck out of the car when my dad was getting gas and like smelled the gas tank.
Oh,
it was
gosh.
amazing. Yeah.
Weirdo.
I love
All
the
right.
smell of gas. Anyway,
I'm not really
my
going to give
book-
it an outstanding. I'll give it an acceptable.
But this
All
could be
right.
interesting. So there are at least 2 different prints of the Sinhala. So maybe ours is an earlier print and Eric's is newer.
Mine is soft cover.
It is. I
Mine's
do know
soft
that
cover,
his
too.
No,
There's
his is 100% newer because I sold it to him and I know exactly what book it is.
Oh.
So I know that he has the newer one.
I do have the
Okay,
newer
so
one.
maybe that's what it is that you have the newer one. So maybe they used a different glue, whatever, something different.
Well,
'Cause
I'm going
mine
to go with
smells-
that. I'm going to go with that so people don't just think I like bad smells.
I think that's safer.
right.
All 7 of mine, I noticed when I was putting them up on the shelf recently that they all smelled pretty dreadful.
Oof. As far as the size and proportion of the books, I would give it an acceptable. I feel like length by width, I feel like it's pretty standard. It doesn't like have anything that really like stands out.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
And for how it feels in your hands, I would probably give it like an exceeds expectations. I feel like the thickness of it is pretty nice and just holding this book feels nice.
Mm-hmm.
It does have a nice texture to it. It's like one of those like very soft kind of textures. It's not quite the buttery texture that we get with like the Kazu Kibuishi, but it's almost there. And then
I would give that for me though, and maybe this is just the one I'm looking at because you both have the earlier one. I'm giving it like almost a pour for feeling in your hand. Like mine's really floppy.
Mine
I agree.
It's very
I know what you're
floppy.
saying.
And like subjectively, when I'm holding it, like I have to kind of do like the New York pizza like fold when I'm like holding it because otherwise like the book just like sinks down in the middle, or I have to like prop it up in the middle.
I gotcha. All right.
It reminds me of a book when I was a little girl that I would pretend was like a bird and making it fly because the pages were so
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's what it reminds me of. I will say though, like the cover of mine feels very rough. It feels like it was stored on sandpaper.
Oh, mine is.
So I don't think it was
smooth.
stored
mine
very
is-
well.
Mine is
you could.
silkety smooth.
Mine's like a
And I
bowling
would
alley.
like all 7 of mine feel like that. So I'm not sure what happened. I just
Interesting.
assumed they were all crappy, but now I know that it's just mine.
All right. Well, as far as the quality of the book, I feel like all of our answers are going to vary a little bit. I would give mine like a poor to acceptable. I feel like it dings and bumps very easily. I feel like the cover, because of the texture and how it is, it gets marked up pretty easily.
Mhm.
So not the best quality. Though I will say for an older edition, the pages are a nice bright white.
Yes. And the ink is a nice dark like black. So there's that going for it.
Yeah.
And I've not had, even in the heavier bindings, like 5 and like 4, 5, 6, I've not had any loose pages, so I feel like they're bound pretty well.
Yeah, I agree.
I'd give it a poor only because I I think we'll talk about this, the cover art interpretation. Like, it looks like it was taken...
Bad screenshot and then printed.
Yeah,
it
it's
pixelates.
So, well, yeah, we'll segue into the quality of the cover art here. Like, it's the Thomas Taylor art, and it is... Mm-hmm. The colors are just kind of faded a little bit. It looks like it was copied not in the best way. The spine colors just don't pop like the other Thomas Taylor books do. The red is just not very bright. The blue is fine. Even the Dumbledore in the back is fine, but like it just looks a little grainy.
Yeah, I would agree with that. In fact, go on.
I do like one more thing, and then I'll let you carry on here. I do like, though, that it says at the top, like Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone in English, and then it has the translation there. Like, I always do like when it has both titles on there. I find that kind of nice for some reason.
I find it nice, if for no other reason than we know that they translated more than likely from the UK English. Because we've ran into books that were translated from the US English as well. And I feel like when you see the title of the book, you know where they pulled their information from. And I tend to appreciate a little bit more when they're translating from the UK books versus the US. I don't know why.
Got it.
That's me. But I would say that, when I first saw mine, I thought it had faded. I was actually really upset because I think I got mine off Peter and I was like, it's faded. And he was like, no, it's not. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, the front of the book and the back of the book almost look night and day. Like the back is like, yay, and the front's like, oh.
Womp, womp, womp.
Yep.
I would agree.
Oh, well, there it is. Sinhala.
But a fun book to have, beautiful font. And they're actually getting harder to find, so if you would like, and I think it's just because of location, like Sri Lanka is kind of remote. So I feel like if you're looking for a Sinhala translation, they're not super expensive when you find them right now, but they're just not found super very often. Easily, anyway. So.
So, with that being said, we've got a pretty cool episode that we're going to chat about next week, which is going to be our first time pretty much talking about our opinions about the movies, because we talk so much about the Harry Potter books. So next episode after this one, we're going to start doing some sort of version variation of our opinions on the movies. I know we're still brainstorming on how we're going to put our own unique spin on it, because obviously movie reviews have been done before. So we're going to have to do our own Dialogue Alley variation twist on it. But that will be a very cool episode to look forward to for next
we'll watch
week.
them all like laying upside down on the couch.
While trying to like sip water and say the alphabet backwards.
Yeah, while someone, we have to get a friend, throws popcorn into our mouths.
It sounds good to me.
Sure, I like that. But we will all watch, between now and the next episode, we are going to watch the first movie again. So it'll be pretty fresh on our minds when we discuss it.
Right.
Yes, can't wait. So unfortunately, we're not going to have time to get to a question for today.
It was the question. Our Funko Pop question was our question of the show.
Oh gosh, I guess it was.
Yeah, see, so it did end up that being that way. See, there you go, Carly. Oh my goodness. If you want to get in touch with us, you can find us all on Instagram. You can find me at the Harry Potter Collection. You can find Erik at Nocturne Erik. That is Nocturne with a K, and Erik also with a K.
Both
and you
with
can
a K.
find starts and ends both
Starts and
with
ends with a K.
K. And Carly with a C at All the Pretty Books on Instagram. You can also find Carly at All the Pretty Books on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. MySpace, Zanga,
Tumblr, I think.
iHeartRadio.
She's Pandora. I don't know.
Zanga.
You're gonna find Carly is on all the
Etsy.
pretty websites as well.
Yes.
And remember, you can find Dialogue Alley on Apple, Google, or all of your other podcast hosting locations, such as Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio. Those we were not joking about, but you can actually find us there. We do occur there. You can also find us on Instagram at Dialogue Alley Podcast, and that's where you're going to find the pictures of all of the books that we talked about today. If you like what you are listening to, please make sure to leave us a review. That makes it so people that are new listeners can get a quick little glimpse as to what they're going to be listening to, and it's really helpful to us if you leave us a review. Hopefully you like what you're listening to. That's why we keep making these episodes. And if you like what you're listening to, tell your friends, tell your cousins, tell your aunts and your uncles and your parents all about it. I know my parents listen to this podcast.
Tell your postal carrier the next time he or she drops off a package at your door.
Yeah,
and
or just have post-it notes on your door.
Tell your friends that you see, or tell like the person that you see at Target wearing a Harry Potter shirt to listen to your podcast, because I have done that.
I did too. I
No
told someone at
shame.
one of my cafes. At one of the cafes, first I showed, no lie, I showed them a picture of the new Lithuanian book one.
Oh gosh.
Of course,
And
you did.
then I showed them the link for our podcast and like airdropped it to them. So, there's that.
Carly, are you like going around to all the banks in your area and like going through the drive-thru and just like putting like a little like note in all of the little canisters through the drive-thru, like listen to my podcast?
No, that would be so weird.
And then you just like drive away really fast.
No, what
Oh
I
my
should do is like
goodness.
have a little picture of the new Lithuanian book one and drop it in and be like, haha, with our podcast on the back.
You guys are ridiculous.
Yeah, we are. It's all good.
Oh boy. Of course it is. With that being said, now it is time to walk back through the archway, grab a drink from your favorite porous pop pub, and into your daily lives. We will catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.